You see this crazy stuff right here? This is called Dogbane. It's dried. It has these little flyaway things, okay? It also has these really pointy things that look like big needles. And if you grab a piece of it and you attempt to break it, you realize really quickly that it's very fibrous. Fibrous, pointy. Can we sew with it? You bet we can. So I'm gonna grab a piece, we're gonna go over here, and we're gonna sew my mouth shut. Just kidding, we're gonna sew something that, yeah, that ain't gonna work, all right. All right, so we're back. We're gonna take some of these pods. Now, the more of these pods you can gather that look like needles, the better. You're gonna go through these things like crazy during this process. So grab a couple of those. Then grab your Dogbane shoot itself. You can crack this just by popping it like that in both directions. It's gonna break it down into 4 pieces and then just pull apart. You can be super rough with this stuff because you're gonna see it's extremely fibrous. So if I pull this apart, you can see even sloppily, I start to get nice fibers out of this, okay? So I could process this into those fibers. I can use any thickness I want. We're gonna try to go a little bit thicker just for this video, just for the simple fact that it's gonna be easier to see. But of course, depending on what you're sewing would depend on how thick you want this. So all I'm gonna do at this point now is make sure that they're long enough for what we need, and I'm just gonna spin them. I'm not doing anything fancy. I just wanna spin them. That's gonna make a nice solid thread. Make sure it's long enough, and then I'm gonna just set that off to the side. Now, these pods, what happens with these pods is they bust open. So as you can see with this one, if I move this or pinch this hard, I can crack it, and then inside we have all of this, all right? So it's important to note this because we're going to need to remove a lot of this in order to sew appropriately with these. So what we can do is we can just reach in there and grab this and pull this out and utilize it that way, that we have a nice hollow shoot. What works even better though is to take this and cut it, and then try your best to pick this out, or take another one of these and just run it up. You want to get all of that stuff out. So we have a nice hollow shoot at this point that we can put our thread in. So I have a hollow shoot. I would create a few of these because we can assume that this edge is going to break over time as we go ahead and use it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this thread in half to make it a little bit thicker. It's going to be easier to work with, and then I'm going to just slide the end, the folded end, down into this shoot. Okay, try not to have it sticking out the sides too much. Just stick it down in there the best you can. And now we have a needle with thread out the back side. And at this point, we can begin to sew. So we're gonna assume we had to just sew these 2 corners together. There's a couple different things you can do. Number one, you can either start with an alternative needle and try to attempt to punch that through, or you can just take the one that you started with and then gently try to separate the fibers, okay? What you need to remember with this when you're doing it is that you are not cutting the fibers, you are separating the fibers. So right now, as you can see, I push through there, okay? And then I'm gently gonna pull that through. It's gonna open up the hole, but it's also gonna pull my thread through. So we started our first section, we're gonna go to the other side now, and we're gonna just gently wiggle that, get that through, okay? And then again, same thing, pull that through. Now you can see I lost my thread there, but my needle's still good. But I did bring those 2 edges together, okay? So now at this point, I can continue the sewing process. So at this point, if I would need to, let's say, bring this one back around, what I can do is I can take this edge again, I can stick it back inside my needle, my makeshift needle, like this. And then I can bring my thread around and I can just start to work that through again. So you see it's through. I'm gonna pull it right through. It's through, and there we go. We have our first whip stitch, all right? Really nice, really easy. Brings it around very simply. So you can create things in the field as alternatives if you don't have needles, but for the weight of a needle and a little bit of thread, or just breaking down the cordage that you carry, that's well worth it. But I like to show this stuff because this is the kind of thing you can go out and have a good time with and explore and try and see if you can get to work for yourself. And in the worst case situation, if you had to use something like this to just repair something to get yourself back to where you came from, You got it. So another tool for the toolbox. So this was Dan Wowack with Coalcracker Bushcraft. I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, check us out at coalcrackerbushcraft.com. And until the next video, stay in the woods and keep on sewing. I feel like all I do is sew. We sew the tarps and all our products, and now I'm sewing out here. I'm a sewing machine.